It's Monday, the 20th of February, 2023. Welcome to the Fast Five by Fear and Greed, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
Sean, 5 big stories today to get us into the week. Story number 1, the pressure on Reserve Bank Governor Philip Lowe is building, with Greens leader Adam Bandt calling on the Labor government to take action and actually override the central bank if it lifts rates again.
I don't think they can do that because when Peter Costello was Treasurer, he enshrined an independent central bank. But Greens leader Adam Bandt is very powerful. Of course, along with a couple of crossbenchers, the Greens hold the majority of power in the Senate. He said the government should be more than jawboning and step in to override the bank if it lifts rates again. He also urged the government to freeze rents, include dental on Medicare, and revisit its stage 3 tax cuts to drive down cost of living pressures. Of course, Phil Lowe spoke a couple of times last week. His point really was that there's going to be a lot more pain if inflation is allowed to get out of control. So if high inflation becomes entrenched, he suggested you'd need a recession in the economy or a steep downturn, which is Reserve Bank speech for a recession. You'd end up with unemployment rates near 9%. Hence, you need to keep pushing up interest rates until you can get a cap on inflation. What will be really interesting, given Adam Bandt's comments and to others, is whether Phil Lowe gets an extension to his term when the time comes up in September. Probably not. I mean, it's a shame because I think apart from his promise that rates wouldn't rise till 2024, he's done a really good job. Now, that promise was a mistake, and it was a big mistake. I'm not sure who's out there that can do a better job. In any case, a lot of pressure on Phil Lowe at the moment.
Sean, can I just ask you to rewind very briefly and just explain a term you used in relation to the Reserve Bank, jawboning?
It's all about actually saying stuff that makes markets and people react in a certain way. So jawboning, saying inflation's a problem, okay, we're going to hold back or we expect interest rates to rise. And they sort of become self-fulfilling prophecies because their jawboning is all about kind of arguing and making people do stuff without actually making a policy decision.
Story number 2, Sean, there's always plenty happening on international markets, but interestingly, there's a bit happening in sugar right now.
Yes, think about, the cost of your Coke or your lollies or baked goods. Basically, top exporter Brazil hasn't had a good crop for a while. Now, apparently the current crop now is supposed to be good, but that won't be harvested until about April. European production has been hit by a drought. Indian mills are diverting more cane to make ethanol. And all the while, we've got China reopening, which, of course, is a massive market and will lift demand. Other big producers like Thailand and Pakistan won't be able to make up the shortfall. Hence, sugar prices are on the rise. Just an aside, Australia is the 10th largest producer of sugar. However, we're still going to get high sugar prices.
Sean, story number 3 today. Former Liberal Minister Linda Reynolds says she paid Brittany Higgins compensation over her, quote, lying cow remark simply to make it go away, according to a report in The Australian.
Reynolds says she was in such poor health at the time that she was in no state to defend herself against a claim of defamation. Senator Reynolds' frustration of being accused of failing to support Ms. Higgins following her rape allegations boiled over when Senator Reynolds called Ms. Higgins a lying cow in an open plan area of her parliamentary office. It came after she learned Ms. Higgins was accusing her of failing to support her. When the remark was published 2 weeks later, Senator Reynolds was already on medical leave on the advice of her cardiologist. It's also worth adding that yesterday, Ms. Higgins took to Twitter to say the compensation was donated to a rape crisis centre.
Sean, story number 4, a bit of bad news if, like me, you are a chicken and chips fan. First, we had the great potato shortage of early 2023 affecting chip prices. Now, Ingham's Group, which is the country's largest chicken producer and supplier, said poultry prices are set to rise.
Yes, feed, packaging, freight costs are rising. What's interesting, do you know we go through about 1.5 billion chickens each year, mostly for consumption in Australia.
That's huge.
Yeah. Now, in terms of consumption, Australians on average consume about 50 kilos each year. Isn't that incredible? Sheep meat, so think lamb, is about 1/10 of that. When I grew up, it would have been the other way around, I guarantee you. Nowadays, we consume more pig meat than beef and veal as well. Anyway, Ingham's announced a slump in earnings for the December half. Revenue was up, but so too were costs. And the outcome of all that, we're going to be paying more for a chook.
All right, Sean, last one. Story number 5. A Swedish study has found that the biggest earners may not be the workers who are the brainiest. While general intelligence is correlated to higher wages, it's only up to a point.
Yes, and that point it's about 57,000 US dollars a year, about 82,000 Aussie. Beyond that point, the study found that ability plateaus as wages continue to rise, and earners in the top 1% score slightly worse in intelligence than those in the income tier directly below them. In the words of the author reported by Bloomberg, we find no evidence that those with top jobs that pay extraordinary wages are more deserving than those who earn only half those wages. I like that study, Michael.
Sean, I'm sure you would. There we go, the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael, I think.
It's Monday, the 20th of February, 2023. Remember to hit follow on the podcast. And if 5 minutes isn't enough, you can find our longer daily show called Fear and Greed wherever you listen to podcasts. And that comes with a bunch of interviews and things. Today's interview is all about investing on international markets. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed. Have a great day.